Existentialism and Excess by Gary Cox. This is a biography of the famous existentialist French philosopher Jean-Paul Sartre. I don't know how to say his name. I can't ever say it straight. It's Sartre or Sartre or Sartre. I'm going to try to avoid saying his name at all. He was born in 1905 in Paris, and he had a first-hand account of both of the world wars. He wrote excessively throughout his life, leading up to writing Being and Nothingness, a famous foundational text for existentialism in 1943. After the war, he got more and more political, warmer and warmer to communism, and he met Mao Zedong, Fidel Castro, he visited Stalinist Russia, he met Khrushchev, and he had glowing reports on all of them, and he spoke out against American imperialism. In existentialism, it is all about the person's individual choice. If you are offended by something, it's because you are choosing to be offended by that thing. Everything about your life is a result of your conscious choice. You can't blame external forces for things because it is always within your power to make the decision of how to react to those things. And so in Sartre's mind, the human mind should be able to choose for itself and be free and live in this openness of making its own destiny. And yet he thought China's great leap forward was the real deal, like that was the path to it, which is a huge contradiction in principles to me. I can't think of a society where the individual was more suppressed for the greater good of the community than nightmare regimes of Mao and Stalin. But there was Sartre talking about how evil capitalism was. It's as if Sartre saw the ideal as you have the government pull down resources from the sky to give people everything that they needed so they could pursue their life passions and make conscious choices about whatever they want to be. I know Sartre may be a genius in the philosophical world, but in the world of economics, this is infantile thinking. I can't think of any other way to phrase it. Put that point aside, reading the book was interesting because you have this really weird guy who just writes constantly. A while back I reviewed a book about a runner who ran the Appalachian Trail in some insanely quick amount of time, and he was basically running a marathon a day. And I remember thinking that this guy is running so much, like he is literally using all his atoms completely for the purpose of running, to where like he's gonna just run himself into the ground and there's gonna be nothing left. You know, just completely expending his body, his soul in this act of running. And that's exactly what I was thinking with reading this about Sartre. He just wrote constantly, and he used drugs to fuel himself, to make him write faster. Apparently he was popping amphetamines like Skittles, and because in his phrase he needed to keep up with the speed of his soul. He experimented with whatever drug would help him produce words faster. One time he took mescaline, and for a while after he was constantly paranoid of a giant lobster monster that was waiting for him around every corner. And so halfway through his life, all these bad habits start catching up with him on his body. Like his teeth are falling out, his lungs are failing, his heart is failing. He's constantly at risk of having another heart attack or another stroke, and then he does, and I kept reading this book expecting him to just die, because the author goes into details about how he's just falling apart physically, but somehow he bounces back, and then he's writing 1,000,000 words every couple months. Apparently his room was just piles and piles of papers that he had written and didn't have time to go back and revise because he was just writing the next thing, which is just crazy to me. Usually when I read someone's biography, I'm more interested in that person at the end. With this one, not so much. I basically look at his life and just feel repelled by it. Like, this is not a good way to live. Maybe one day I'll change my mind and realize that he's actually a genius, like everyone says he is, but that'll have to wait until a more convincing biography is written of him. Altogether, I give this book 3 stars. If you have any recommendations, leave them in the comments below.